What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to do some in-depth technical analysis and give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow for Tesla based off what the charts are showing and based off what the data is suggesting. I'm also going to break down what the Fed just announced during the FOMC meeting and how this may affect Tesla. Some big announcements that came out involving Goldman Sachs and Tesla, and what the data tells us for the future of the markets and Tesla going forward. Now, before I break anything down, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is any could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 2 weeks. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. I also apologize about my audio in this video. Might not be the best, maybe kind of quiet because I'm recording this in the library. I'm away from the typical place, and this will change starting tomorrow. So starting tomorrow, going to the next like 8 weeks, it's going to be much better in terms of audio and quality and stuff. But just for today, bear with me because I'll have to discuss some important things that Jerome Powell said and how they may affect Tesla. So looking at the share price of Tesla, I'm seeing good things and bad things. The bad thing is there's obviously this clear downtrend, but the good thing is, despite the downtrend, Tesla's looking like it's starting to hold these levels a little bit better. So look at the rates in which this thing was dropping. It was dropping very hard. Right here, it tried to bounce a little bit, then it continued to come down, and now it's trying to hold 155. So we are seeing some buyers starting to step in just a little bit. The real question is, and the key demands that I'm watching is about this 152 to 150 level. If Tesla hits this level, which it could actually do that tomorrow, I believe there's either two things that can happen. Number one, we could bounce off this. Buyers could step in and start actually defending their positions because Tesla is still quite oversold. And it's very possible for this thing to get a bounce, even if the market is like underperforming. Tesla is very oversold. And if this thing bounces, I don't see it like going to all-time highs. We could get a small one, a nice push back to about 170 or so. We could retest the 200 EMA. But the other possibility would be, look, if the market starts to tank, which it most definitely can, right? Very likely it will relatively soon, but there's also a possibility the market might shop first before tanking, and that does give Tesla a bit of an opportunity. If the market starts tanking very hard and more sellers come in and there's some like really bad piece of news, Tesla would have to try to hold at least 150 to 152. If Tesla breaks below 150, guys, that's not going to be good. This thing has the potential to hit 140, then 136, and lower levels like that if it fails at 150. So please be very cautious when playing this thing. We have to see it bounce off 150 to 152. Now, I do believe that seeing it being this oversold, it's a little bit more likely for this thing to try, at least attempt to hold these levels and see some more of a move to the opposite direction. At least that's what I'm hoping for, but it is going to depend on the market. Now, why has the market actually changed its overall direction? And that's because of what's going on with the Fed and also future projections. The Fed came out and they said that, look, before the terminal rate hike was supposed to be 4.5%, that's the ultimate rate hike, they increased it to 5.1%, implying that there are going to be even more rate hikes for 2023. When Jerome Powell was asked, okay, to what degree are you going to raise these rates? Are you going to give us more, 25 basis point hikes, like 2 times over, or is it going to be another like 50 basis point? And he mentioned that it's all going to be based off the data. He doesn't truly know. But the bottom line is there are going to be more rate hikes. Now, on top of that, Jerome Powell mentioned that there is some progress that has been made, seeing inflation starting to respect the downtrend, but he did anticipate that year over year it's still going to be relatively high, and there's still a lot of work that has to be done. When we talk about the work that has to be done, you must note that seeing the fact that inflation is going to be high, the Fed is going to be keeping the federal funds rate at a higher place for a longer period of time. That's what Jerome Powell himself said. But Jerome Powell also said something that kind of contradicted his potentially painful recession talks. He did imply things like that. He also mentioned that a soft landing is also a possibility in just his honest opinion. And I find myself heavily disagreeing with that because I do believe that these rate hikes are going to lead to lots of pain, especially in the unemployment sector. So looking at employment, the projected unemployment rate for the start of 2024 is like about 4.6%. At least that's what Jerome Powell said. And they do believe that inflation is going to be closer to 2% by 2024, which means that it is implied, I'm not guaranteeing this, that the pivot may take longer than some people expect. And you also must note that historically the market tends to crash after the pivots. Now, it could be different this year because maybe we price everything in beforehand. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. We'll have to just wait and see on that. So please be very ready for that, anyways. Now, because of what's going on, because of the fact that there was an unexpected increase in the terminal rate and the fact that Jerome Powell did say some hawkish things, he wasn't entirely like extremely hawkish like what we saw from Jackson Hole or during the other events. So there is a difference right over there. So this is the reason why the market didn't start to like crash extremely hard. That was possible, but overall the trend is looking like, at least from a technical standpoint, it's looking like we're about to shift. Because when you look at this, the one argument that the bulls can make is the fact that SPY is still above this trend line. So we haven't fully like collapsed as of right now. But at the same time, taking a couple of steps back, I mean, looking on bigger time frames, you could see we have a double top projection off 410. And if we break below the trend line, we see like 397 and the 395s, 394s. It's not going to look good. It looks like SPY will come down to 393 in that case. And this could drag down the whole market. I do believe this could actually start to drag down Tesla, but the rate at which Tesla is going to fall, in my opinion, it could be less than the overall market, showing a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily say it's strong, but maybe like less weakness in a way, right? And I think Tesla could end up doing that because of the fact that I think some buyers may try to step in between 150 and 152. And if that's not the case, then be ready for even more blood. So be very, very careful. Now, when it comes to Tesla, I want to talk about other important things. The volume is still relatively high, and we actually held up pretty decently. And that also has to do with what was going on with the FOMC meeting. Now, during the FOMC meeting, SPY took a huge hit, at least initially. And then what happened was Tesla did not take a big hit during that time. It was still down about 2%. So that is a sign of less weakness, at least on Tesla's end. And then going down and looking at the data, we could see the price price ratio is very, very low. And when it comes down to these like super low levels, we tend to see it bounce a little bit. So I'm hoping that Tesla kind of outperforms the market in a way, or at least tries to hold up a little bit better. All right. And then on top of that, looking at this historical basis, Tesla's green like 47% of the time historically on Thursdays. I can't guarantee it this time after the data that came out, but it is worth noting that Thursdays tend to not be the best of days. The short interest on Tesla is continuing to respect an uptrend, showing more shorting has perpetuated. What's interesting about the market is we saw a lot of puts being bought, but then once Jerome Powell did actually mention things involving like the soft landing, his tone wasn't as like hawkish as some people thought, at least during some parts of the FOMC meeting. Lots of the puts were closed, leading them to hedge by buying more shares. And that is in turn why the market pumped just a little bit. It wasn't really a huge pump. Now, what else is very important is I want to note something. Goldman Sachs came out and they said that they actually adjusted their targets on Tesla. They actually see about 420,000 deliveries. That's very funny right here. They now see 420,000 deliveries in Q4, down from a 440,000 forecast. They also believe that deliveries will reach 1.85 million in 2023, which is actually lower than the 1.95 million targets. We are seeing some decreases in targets for Tesla, and their overall share price was actually cut. Their price target was cut. It used to be about 305. Now they believe Tesla will stop, or maybe their target for about 2023 or so is about $235. So they are actually becoming less bullish on Tesla after this news came out. And typically, I mean, if Tesla was on a huge downtrend, this could have caused Tesla to drop harder. Instead, like I mentioned, it's not dropping as hard now because it's trying to base around these levels as more buyers are stepping in. volume is starting to come back to the stocks. That's a pretty decent sign. What I believe is going to happen tomorrow, it's very hard to tell. It really depends on the markets. Is I do believe relatively soon, if Tesla keeps downtrending like this, if it doesn't bounce like starting tomorrow, we could come down to about 152-ish to 150. It is very possible, especially if SPY comes down with the QQQ being dragged down by Apple. Not to mention the fact that the VIX, the dollar index, and the 10-year treasury yields, they're starting to push up a bit. So what I'm trying to say is Tesla might come down to this level, retest it, but I want to see this thing bounce off here. I want to see a nice reaction. I want to see buyers step in, and if they start coming in and we start to see Tesla see some defensive moves from the bulls, it is still possible for this thing to push up another like $15 or so back to 170, then get rejected off that. That could end up happening hypothetically. So I'm going to be watching the 200 EMA and other factors like that. What isn't good for the markets, however, is the fact that when you look at the VIX on the daily time frame, we're still respecting an uptrend. It came down just a bit today, but I don't expect this to last forever. I do believe the VIX is going to slowly maybe chop a bit and climb its way up to these higher levels all the way up here, which is bearish for the markets. Look at the dollar index. This thing just got hits today. It was trying to push, trying to curl, and then boom, it took another big hit and came down. So this thing is still very, I would use the word oversold. And on top of that, it's very close to its key demand level. So what could happen is once this thing gets a breakout and once we start to see smart money kind of reallocating their funds away from the stock market into like more safer assets or more safer places, this could lead to the dollar index starting to pop, which would actually drag the markets down again. So that's another red flag. 10-year treasury yield, as you guys could see, this thing is actually pretty indecisive as of right now, but there is a slight uptrend being respected. If this thing pushes up, we could see it might actually go for the 50 EMA, which is very close to where this gap fill is, the 37 mark, which is a bearish trigger for the market. So we are seeing more signs pointing in the bearish direction for SPY. The current candle is quite indecisive, so I'm still very cautious, but we have to see how it reacts to this level that I drew out. I think I was using the 10-15 minute time frame. The level right here, we have to see how SPY actually holds this. Could SPY actually hold around like 397, 396? If it fails here and starts coming down, it's not going to be good. I'm going to be watching 393, then 390. If it breaks below those guys, we could come down pretty hard, so be very careful. This could affect Tesla, but like I said before, let's see how Tesla reacts to the current demand zone. If we see lots of buyers step in, it would be completely fine. For QQQ, very similar trend. This thing is trying to actually hold the levels, but overall, just like SPY, it's not showing the same amount of strength. We have a nice double top like rejection right here. It is likely going to get dragged down, especially because right now, when the market pumped, it was not tech that was leading the way. It was not tech at all. It was the other assets and other sectors out there. So this is very evident that the pump was not very strong, and this thing is slowly getting closer to coming down. We could see another death cross, if you want to call it that, very soon. So I do believe QQQ is going to chop and start respecting a downtrend, and we should be approaching, in my opinion, this 281 range relatively soon over the next week or so, which is a bearish indicator for the markets. Now, the last thing I want to say about Tesla is yes, what do I believe this thing is going to do? Just to remind you guys, watch 150 to 152. If things are super bearish, some bearish news comes out or whatever, Tesla, if it breaks 150 below it and starts tanking, be very cautious. We could see this thing in the 140s. The next major level I'm going to be watching is about 140 flats, about 136, if it cannot hold 150. But if this thing maybe like touches 150 and then it starts bouncing off and buyers coming in and bounces, it has the potential to actually bounce and see a retest of a push to this like 200 EMA zone, maybe hitting that 170 range or somewhere around there if we could get a nice relief rally. So right now, guys, I mean, it's very dependent on how the market moves and how much Tesla holds up and if buyers step in. So watch that level very carefully. If I could predict anything, I would predict that tomorrow Tesla's going to retest the zone. We're going to maybe come down a little bit more, but it's not going to be that bad. And Tesla's going to try to balance and try holding 155 throughout the day. I do believe that I'm a little bit more optimistic on Tesla, at least for the short term. I'm hoping this thing can actually hold these levels. I mean, if it fails, it is what it is. I'm still prepared for this. I also warned everyone about that. But if it doesn't, if it doesn't fail and then this thing actually tries to balance, I would be very optimistic and very, very happy, at least for the super, super short term, because Tesla is still a fantastic company. I'm very, very bullish for the company long term. But like I said before, the trend is still not very strong. So I don't expect it to bounce to like all time highs or 200 or 180. I do expect a small bounce if we truly see buyers step in. So that's essentially what I have for this video. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys found some value in this video. I once again apologize for the audio. I won't be recording in this place again for a very, very long time. I will be in a much, much better place starting tomorrow and for now on. So please, please, please bear with me. Thank you all so much for listening if you made it this far. And please note, even though there may be more potential downside for the markets, I have not lost faith in Tesla. I see this as a huge opportunity for the long term. I'm extremely bullish long term. I want to make that as clear as possible. I know people get unhappy when they hear me say bearish things about Tesla or my targets. It happens, guys. It is what it is. The truth is the truth. So please take it for what it is. Thank you for listening. Tesla to the moon, because the long term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.